Good afternoon, folks. I'm driving back up to Rayville to go do another week at work, and so I got a little time to chat with y'all. A thing that has been on my mind a lot lately is the state of the infrastructure in our country, water and wastewater infrastructure. And it is not, I'm not pointing fingers at any one municipality or even any one business, or I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. It's just overall, it's nationwide. Anyone who's listened to me talk at all about water and wastewater stuff, I'll mention that I don't feel like the operators are getting paid what they should be. Once you work your way up through this business, you can make a decent living. But starting out, it's kind of rough. But that brings up the bigger issues, which are just broadly the infrastructure itself and the age of the infrastructure. Here in the South, you've got a lot of towns that are rather old, have a lot of historic things going on, and which you've got a lot of that pretty much all across the country now. There's a lot of towns that have, whether or not they were actually involved in big things like, the Civil War or, the Revolutionary War. Those are certainly old time periods that people can easily wrap their mind around. But really, it's not like we've built any new towns in this country recently. Everything's still pretty, they're towns that have existed for a long, long time. And so I know that we've got infrastructure in this country that has been around since probably the late 1800s, early 1900s. And then you had a big push to improve infrastructure in this country back in the, 40s? Where they did huge infrastructure projects like the Hoover Dam and, things of that nature. And the country spent a lot of money and capital and resources building out new infrastructure. And that was great that they did that at the time. But here we are in 2026. And a lot of that old infrastructure has not been touched in 40, 50, 60 years. Back in those days, one of the main things that they used to put piping in the ground was cast iron pipe or ductile iron pipe, which are pretty close to the same thing for all intents and purposes. It's old iron pipe in the ground. And so you've got municipalities that the citizens are turning on the tap and they'll get a little bit of brown water coming out. And of course they immediately think that it's horrible and it's going to kill them, and it's iron. If you look at any multivitamin that you take, it's got iron in it. It's just the same thing, soluble iron. But when you add a little bit of chlorine to that iron, and there's other things, iron, manganese, and calcium, and but most of what's in the ground isn't going to hurt you. In fact, a lot of it's beneficial. But it does look bad to see brown water, and as water operators, as system operators, as system managers, we try and mitigate that as much as we can. We'll do a flushing program, or we'll send guys out to specific neighborhoods that are having a problem, and we'll flush the mains. Now, when you flush the mains, whatever sediment might be in the bottom of that pipe is going to get stirred up, and it's got to get out of the system before the water clears up. So when you start flushing it, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And I'm real conscious of the because I know that the folks on the system, the citizens that are looking at their water quality, largely don't think much about it. All those pipes are underground and it's out of sight, out of mind. Nobody really thinks about what the condition of the piping is in the ground that's bringing the water to my house. And it's not picking on anybody. I'm trying to educate folks, because before I got into this industry, I was the same way, same as everybody else. You turn on the tap and the clean water comes out. You flush the little handle and the dirty water goes away, and that's all you think about it. But back in the 40s, a lot of times your water pipe was cast iron or ductile iron, and your sewer pipe might have been clay tile, which when put together right, does good. But it can get broken, and the gaskets between the pipe joints can leak, and so you start clogging up pipes. And so that's the complaint that, oh, the water's not flowing, the city's not doing their job. And I mean, if the sewer's not flowing, there's something restricting the flow. It might be a big ball of roots. You'll get, you ever look at a new plant and it's got those little bitty fine, white, spindly looking roots coming off, real, we call those pin roots, just as a general term. But a lot of plants those little pin roots are going out through the soil seeking water. And wastewater, I mean, I get there's a ick factor, a yuck factor, but that water has water and a lot of nutrients. It's actually good fertilizer for plants, and so they will seek it out. And if you've got an old clay pipe that the seal isn't holding as good anymore, it's got a little bit of, because them pin roots don't need like the thick as a human hair's worth of a gap to get through. And so once they start getting in there, they will just continue growing into it, and you'll get a root ball inside the pipe. And that's basically that shrub or that tree nearby found a good water source, found a nutrient source, and it's got pin roots down in there collecting the water and the nutrients that it needs to survive. And so the fix for that is we find it, we dig it up, we cut out the bad section, remove the root ball, install a new section of pipe. Your water is the same way. If we have old ductile iron pipe and it's constantly causing brown water, we can go in and remove that section of pipe and replace it. But the problem always comes down to money, and I totally get it, absolutely get it. I'm already paying X for my water bill, and the water is brown and horrible, or the wastewater is constantly backing up. Why would I want to give you more money when you're doing a crappy job now? That's a valid question. The problem is that none of this stuff is free. Most of your water systems in the country are understaffed, which means that you'll wind up with a crew or maybe two crews in a city that all they're doing is running around chasing leaks, because the infrastructure hasn't been addressed in 40, 50, 60 years. And so they're constantly doing point repairs, which is like that thing broke, we go fix it. That thing over there broke, we go fix that. That thing there broke, we go fix that. And you're chasing around the city, chasing after leaks, and there's no time to completely rip out a section of the line down the road and replace it. Or if you do have time, there's no resources, because the cities haven't gone up on their water bill in 20 years. So you're trying to run a system with 20-year-old money, 20-year-old charges. And I'm not sure why everyone gets so angry about their water and wastewater bill. when all of us will happily go pay $100 a month for a cell phone. I mean, it happens all the time. Or $100 a month for cable. You're certainly going to pay $100 or more a month for electricity. But let that water bill go from $20 to $22 and everyone's throwing a fit. So until, as a nation, we decide that it's important enough to spend a little more money on this infrastructure, it's kind of hard to make it better. A lot of your water systems are running their water and wastewater systems as in the negative, because they're actually spending more money every month to maintain what they have than they're bringing in. And so, you know, you're taking money out of the city's general fund to fund the water and wastewater department. And that's tough to, it's tough to do project planning when you cannot afford to do a project. And, you know, I can hear it now. Oh, well, there should be some money somewhere. There's really not. When you start looking at what grants and whatnot are available to water and wastewater systems, it's not a real big pot, you know. It might be somewhere like the state of Louisiana gets, I don't know, $30 million or something from the Fed for water and wastewater infrastructure upgrades. But there's more than 30 towns in the state of Louisiana, and every one of them needs that money. And so everyone winds up getting, you know, $250,000 or something off this grant. Well, $250,000 is a lot to me and you, but to do a well, that's nothing. That's a drop in the bucket. To do a lift station, again, a drop in the bucket. You can spend $500,000 on a lift station, no problem. You can spend $500,000 rehabilitating a well, no problem. You can spend $3 or $4 million redoing a main line down a section of road. I mean, $250,000 ain't nothing in those scenarios. I mean, here after 2020 and everything that happened with our economy, and you know, I'm not concerned about getting into the politics of the pandemic, but everyone knows that when that happened, prices went up because it was harder to move things around the country. It was harder to get what people needed to do certain things. You know, heck, a prime example is in my industry, brass. The things that it takes to generate brass, they're having trouble getting it shipped in. And so you wound up having backlogs, and a part that used to be, I could order it and it'd be in 2 weeks. It might take 2 months or 6 months or 18 months. I've ordered a pump before before 2019, I could order this same pump and it would cost me $4,000 and I could expect to have it in 2 weeks. A couple of years later, 2021, 22, after everything settled down, that same pump might cost me $6,000 or $8,000 and take 18 months to get in. 18 months. And so if I'm trying to get something done and I've got to wait 18 months before I can even get parts, you know, it makes it kind of tough. And I'd just really like to have the open conversation so that the citizenry understands why things happen the way they happen, and know that all of your water operators, every one of us, this is a calling. You know, this is doing God's work, keeping people in safe, clean water and safe sanitary sewer. And so, and all of the mayors and the councils and the, governing bodies over these water systems. Every one of them that I've ever been in the meetings with and talked about these things, they all say, oh, we know this needs to be done, we know this needs to be done. But then the problem always comes back to, how do we pay for it? It's not free. We can't just snap our fingers and magically do infrastructure projects, So when and if you hear your little small town or your city or your private water board talking about we may need to go up on rates, I know the knee-jerk reaction is, oh, these bunch of corrupt animals are trying to get more tax money out of me. But that's not the case. We're trying to build better infrastructure, and we know that until we go and replace that line going down the side of the highway that's been there for 40 years, the brown water is not going to get better. We know that this lift station that is affecting this neighborhood is on the verge of collapse, and it's old, broken, and we've been band-aiding it for 20 years. And unless we can spend the money to completely rebuild it, that situation is not going to get better. We're going to be out there a couple times a month pumping that thing out because it's literally falling apart. So those are just my thoughts. Your water operators and wastewater operators love what they do, and they love their customers, and they don't want to see the customers having problems. But we got to figure out a way to fund it. That's all I have for today. I love you guys. God bless, and I'll talk to you next time.